Chosen one, this message is urgent, powerful, and non-negotiable. What I'm about to share may shock you, but it is the truth you need to hear right now. If you're watching this video, it's no accident. God Himself has led you here in this very moment, because a profound shift is happening in your life. You are no longer in a place of simply wanting or hoping. You are shifting into having. The very things you've been praying for, waiting on, and believing in are no longer distant dreams. They are moving swiftly into your reality. This is not just a mindset change. It's a spiritual awakening, an energetic transformation designed to propel you into your destiny. But hear this clearly, God is commanding you to stop tolerating anything that diminishes your light or drains your spirit, and that includes your own family. This is a divine decree. Your mission is sacred. Your energy is precious. You must fiercely protect your path and your purpose from anyone trying to block it, no matter how close they are. Before we dive deeper into this life-altering message, pause this video and do these 3 things right now. Hit the like button to ignite and amplify this powerful energy. Subscribe to join a community of over 1,000 chosen ones committed to rising. Leave a comment with the number 99, a sacred code that will send a powerful signal to the universe, activating your breakthrough and accelerating this shift. If you are truly a chosen one, your spirit already knows this message is meant for you. You will watch this video all the way through, but if you're not ready to receive this truth, you might stop here. For those who stay and listen, your life will never be the same again. Now let's get into it. God is speaking with unmistakable authority, declaring to the chosen one that the time for endurance has ended. No longer shall there be tolerance for those who diminish your worth. No longer shall your spirit be subjected to the heavy chains of manipulation, disrespect, or emotional abuse. This is not a gentle plea, it is a divine command. The highest authority is ordering you to rise and draw a firm boundary. Those who attempt to steal your peace and weaken your spirit are enemies of the divine mission and must be met with unyielding refusal. The call is urgent, unmistakable. Stop tolerating toxicity now, regardless of the source. Among all voices and relationships, even the closest ties, none have the right to drain the vitality of the chosen one's spirit. Your sacred mission is too precious. Your destiny is too great to be delayed by the poison of those who seek to control or destroy. Every moment spent tolerating such negativity is a moment lost in fulfilling the purpose ordained for you before the beginning of time. The divine decree is clear. No person, no circumstance, no binding relationship may be allowed to diminish the Spirit's power or cloud the clarity of your divine path. To endure such harm is to betray the holy assignment entrusted to you. This command comes with urgency that cannot be ignored. The breakthrough you await depends entirely on your response to this call. Courage to say no to manipulation, no to guilt-driven control, no to contempt disguised as honesty. This is a moment for decisive action, for unwavering faith in the divine promise that freedom and strength are your rightful inheritance. The mission assigned to the chosen one is unlike any other crafted in eternity before the stars were set in place. It is a mission that transcends human limitation and calls for a spirit set apart, a heart forged in divine fire. The chosen one is not meant to walk the common path, but to blaze a trail guided by sacred purpose. This uniqueness is not a burden. It is a crown, a sign that the divine presence dwells within, compelling movement toward a destiny no one else can fulfill. Ordinary is the world's expectation, but the chosen one was never made to be ordinary. This calling demands boldness beyond the natural, a fierce protection of the soul and mind from influences that would dilute or distract. Every breath taken by the chosen one is part of a sacred plan, every step a deliberate act of fulfilling divine will. To compromise this mission is to reject the very essence of one's creation. The divine nature within declares loudly, "The chosen one will not be shaped by others, nor swayed by the weight of opinion." The unique mission must be embraced fully, for it is the reason for existence. Those who stand in opposition are not to be followed, but overcome. The call is to walk in the fullness of divine destiny, knowing that the power and wisdom of God accompany every step. The sacred command extends beyond mere boundaries. It cuts into the deepest of human ties. Even family with its blood and history is not permitted to diminish the spirit of the chosen one. Relationships that seek to control, manipulate, or suppress the divine calling are to be severed without hesitation. The holiness of the mission transcends every earthly bond. No guilt or obligation can justify the sacrifice of the spirit's integrity. The divine decree is clear. Family love that demands submission at the expense of freedom and purpose is not from God. The chosen one's spirit is a sacred flame entrusted by God and must be guarded fiercely above all else. Those who would erode this spirit, even with familiar words, are adversaries of the divine will. The chosen one is called to rise above familial expectations that conflict with divine destiny. Obedience to the divine mission supersedes human ties. The chosen one must not allow love to become a cage or guilt a chain. Freedom to walk the divine path is the highest loyalty. This is a call to courageous separation, an act of faith that honors God above all earthly relationships. God commands the chosen one to recognize this truth. Guilt is not a tool of love, but a weapon forged in deception to bind and weaken the spirit. False love, masked as care or concern, is a trap designed to erode self-worth and entangle the heart in chains of obligation. The chosen one is called to see through these illusions clearly. It is essential to understand that such manipulation has no place in the sacred path laid out by the Creator. These forces seek only to control and diminish the divine power entrusted to the chosen one. The divine voice declares with unwavering authority that true love empowers freedom. It liberates the spirit and nurtures growth. Any affection that brings shame, pressure, or restriction is counterfeit, a shadow of the genuine love that God pours out abundantly. The chosen one must break free immediately from these toxic entanglements, rejecting every attempt to use love as leverage for control. This break is not an act of rebellion against relationships, but a holy act of obedience to God's higher will. The time for hesitation is over. The chosen one is commanded to rise with strength, courage, and clarity, cutting loose all guilt-induced chains. No matter the cost or the voices of those who wield guilt as a weapon, the divine mission demands freedom and integrity above all. This breaking free is the gateway to true spiritual power and the fulfillment of divine purpose. God's decree is clear. Move now in liberation, chosen one, and reclaim the pure love that fuels your destiny. God's voice commands the chosen one to be vigilant and discerning. There are those who cloak cruelty in the guise of honesty, speaking with venom masked as truth. This contempt is a spiritual poison meant to break the spirit and sow doubt in the heart. The chosen one must not be deceived or entangled by such falsehoods. Every word spoken in contempt, no matter how cleverly dressed as honesty, is a weapon. Against the divine mission, the sacred command is to block these voices without hesitation or remorse. To allow such words to penetrate is to invite destruction into the holy space reserved for purpose and growth. God declares that honesty without love is empty and deadly. Those who wield it without compassion are adversaries to be removed from the chosen one's life. The protection of the spirit demands firm boundaries against all forms of disguised cruelty. This is not an act of pride or arrogance, it is one of divine obedience. The chosen one must stand firm, unwavering, knowing that blocking contempt disguised as honesty is essential to preserve clarity, peace, and strength. The divine mission flourishes only when the heart is shielded from toxic words that seek to diminish and derail. This command is clear: guard the spirit fiercely, for it is the vessel of God's purpose. The path laid before the chosen one is sacred, ordained by God, and worthy of the highest respect. Yet there are those who mock, belittle, and disrespect this divine journey, seeking to shake the foundation of faith and purpose. God's command is clear and firm: reject every act of mockery and disrespect without hesitation. To tolerate scorn is to allow the enemy a foothold. The chosen one's journey is not a subject for ridicule, it is a holy calling to be embraced with unwavering commitment. Attack on the divine covenant must be met with spiritual strength. The chosen one is reminded that ridicule reveals ignorance and fear in those who do not understand the sacred mission. The divine voice urges the chosen one to rise above the hurt caused by mockery, to refuse to internalize disrespect, and to press forward with even greater determination. This rejection is a powerful declaration that the chosen one honors the divine call above all else. No worldly voice, no matter how loud or persistent, can derail what God has ordained. Within the chosen one dwells a powerful divine gift: subliminal power. This unseen force enables calm, wise, and effective responses, even in the face of attack or provocation. God commands the chosen one to wield this power intentionally, using it as both shield and sword to protect the spirit and advance the mission. This subliminal power is not to be wasted on anger or rash words. Instead, it guides measured, thoughtful action that disarms hostility and maintains peace. Through this divine empowerment, the chosen one transcends natural reactions, standing firmly rooted in the peace and authority granted by God. This is the higher way, responding with spiritual wisdom rather than emotional reaction. God instructs the chosen one to cultivate and trust this inner strength daily. It is a supernatural gift that strengthens the spirit, allowing the chosen one to navigate challenges with grace and power. The wise response, inspired by this subliminal force, is a testimony to the divine presence within, commanding respect and preserving the mission. Fear and threats are weapons forged by forces opposed to God's plan, designed to silence, intimidate, and paralyze the chosen one. The divine command is resolute: do not submit to these tactics under any circumstance. Fear is the enemy of faith, and submission to terror is submission to the adversary. God's chosen is called to rise in fearless obedience, standing firm on the rock of divine assurance. The power of God within nullifies every threat and dissolves every fear. The chosen one is equipped with courage and boldness, gifts necessary to walk unhindered toward divine destiny. This resistance is not optional. It is a command that must be heeded immediately. To yield to fear is to forsake the mission. The divine voice echoes: stand strong, walk boldly, and let no threat shake the foundation of faith and purpose. The freedom and growth of the chosen one are sacred gifts from God, not to be compromised or limited by anyone. God commands the immediate severance of ties with those who seek to restrict, confine, or control the chosen one's spiritual and personal expansion. These are walls built by the enemy to hinder divine progress. No human connection, no matter how familiar, has the right to bind the wings of the chosen one or stall their ascent. Growth is the divine mandate, a movement ordained from above that must be protected fiercely. To allow anything less is to reject the divine gift of destiny. Limitation is a betrayal of the very purpose that God has placed in the heart. The divine command is unambiguous: cut off all relationships or influences that choke freedom or stunt growth. This act of separation is not an act of cruelty, it is Sacred obedience. It preserves the space necessary for the chosen one to thrive and fulfill the holy mission. Betrayal and ongoing emotional abuse are poison to the spirit and cannot be tolerated by the chosen one. God's command is absolute. These forms of pain have no place in the sacred journey. Every act of betrayal cuts deeply, but repeated wounds are more than pain. They are an attack against the mission. They must be met with firm, decisive action. The chosen one is called to guard the heart with unwavering resolve, refusing to endure cycles of hurt that sap strength and hope. God demands that the chosen one remove themselves from any relationship that repeatedly inflicts emotional harm, regardless of history, blood ties, or expectation. This removal is not abandonment, it is protection. It preserves the sacred spirit, allowing healing and restoration. The divine mission cannot flourish amid betrayal and abuse. God commands the chosen one to stand firm and walk away without regret. God's voice is thunderous in this command. Tell toxic people no. Freedom is the chosen one's sacred birthright, and no one may claim dominion over the spirit. Toxic individuals, those who manipulate, harm, or diminish, must be confronted with clear and unwavering boundaries. God demands that freedom come first, above all else. This no is not just a refusal, it is a sacred declaration of loyalty to the divine mission. It is an unshakable boundary that protects the heart and preserves the calling. The chosen one must not waver in saying no, no matter the pressure, guilt, or expectation. This is the path to liberation. God promises that standing firm in this, no will open the way to true power and blessing. It is a necessary step to walk fully in the destiny God has prepared. The divine mandate is clear. Speak no with conviction and walk in freedom. The time has arrived for the chosen one's divine breakthrough. God calls loudly and urgently. The moment for transformation and victory is at hand. There is no more waiting, no more delay. This is the appointed hour to step fully into the fulfillment of destiny. The breakthrough will be radical overturning, every barrier and ushering in new levels of power and purpose. God promises that this moment is the fruit of obedience, courage, and faithfulness. The chosen one is invited to embrace it fully, knowing that hesitation will only postpone the blessings. This is a sacred moment, a divine pivot point. The chosen one must act now with boldness, trust, and readiness. The breakthrough belongs to those who obey swiftly and believe deeply in the power of God. God commands the chosen one to rise above. Every wound, every betrayal, and every trial endured. These hardships are not the end. They are the refining fire preparing the one who will walk boldly into destiny, lead with strength and divine purpose. The chosen one's leadership is not defined by human standards, but by God's sovereign authority. To rise means to reject defeat, to claim victory over pain, and to lead others from a place of healed strength and divine clarity. The chosen one is called to shepherd with courage, wisdom, and unwavering faith in the holy mission. This leadership is the living fulfillment of God's promise. Every hurt, once overcome, becomes a testimony of strength. God's chosen is commissioned to rise and lead boldly, standing as a beacon for others on the sacred path. Finally, God reminds the chosen one of their true nature, chosen before time, powerful beyond measure, and unstoppable in fulfilling divine purpose. This identity is the foundation of every step forward and the eternal source of strength. No opposition, no betrayal, no pain can diminish what God has ordained. The chosen one carries the Creator's power within a force that moves mountains and breaks chains. To remember this truth daily is to walk fully armored in God's May. The mission is unstoppable because it is God's plan, and the chosen one is the vessel. Stand firm, live boldly. Never forget who you are, a chosen, powerful, unstoppable force, moving with divine authority toward victory. Being chosen by God is not a title of convenience or comfort. It is a sacred calling, demanding nothing less than the highest standard of self-worth and divine alignment. To settle for less is to deny the very essence of the mission imparted from above. The chosen one is reminded that their destiny is too grand, their purpose too vital to accept mediocrity in relationships, in environments, or in spiritual commitments. God commands the chosen one to rise above every temptation to settle and to hold steadfast to the vision of greatness set before them. The divine mandate is clear. Everything in the chosen one's life must reflect the honor and dignity bestowed by God's choice. Settling for less distorts the sacred path, dilutes the power of the mission, and stalls the flow of divine blessings. The chosen one is urged to reject all forms of complacency, whether it appears as toxic connections, limiting beliefs, or self-neglect. God insists that the chosen one embrace only what uplifts, empowers, and propels them toward divine destiny. To settle is to accept chains, but the chosen one is called to live in freedom from manipulation, fear, and diminished self-worth. God's voice thunders with urgency. Rise now. Refuse to compromise. Demand the respect and honor that your divine nature deserves. Every step forward is a refusal to accept anything less than the fullness of God's plan for your life. Know this, chosen one. You were not made for the ordinary or the easy. You were designed for greatness, for influence, for a destiny that breaks through limits. To settle is to betray that sacred design. Stand tall, hold firm, and claim the honor that only the chosen may walk in. Possess the truth. Emotional manipulators often wear the mask of love, deceiving even the most discerning heart. God reveals to the chosen one the subtle signs of this deception: guilt-tripping disguised as concern, silent treatments cloaked in tough love, and constant demands that erode the spirit while pretending to protect it. The chosen one is warned these manipulators are spiritual thieves, robbing joy, peace, and freedom under the pretense of affection. God commands vigilance and clarity. Love that controls or confines is not love at all. It is a weapon wielded by those opposed to divine purpose. The chosen one must listen closely to the unrest within their spirit and to the divine whispers that signal hidden agendas. Emotional manipulation seeks to bind the chosen one to past pain, fear, and obligation, blocking the path to true freedom and fulfillment. The divine voice instructs the chosen one to trust the inner discernment God has given, to see beyond the surface of sweet words and empty gestures. To allow manipulation to persist is to accept a false narrative that diminishes the sacred identity. The chosen one must confront these deceptions with courage, calling out the manipulation and refusing to engage in toxic cycles. This awareness is divine gift spiritual radar to protect the chosen one from harm disguised as care. God's chosen is commanded to act immediately, to break free from these chains, and to refuse to be ensnared by false love. The path to destiny remains clear and unimpeded only when the spirit is free from such bondage. God warns of the perilous trap of silent endurance, a place where pain, betrayal, and manipulation are tolerated in the name of peace or love. This kind of endurance is not strength, it is a slow erosion of the soul, a quiet death that steals joy and dims the light of purpose. The divine command is urgent: break this cycle now, no matter the cost. For silence in the face of toxicity is submission to destruction. Endurance without boundaries allows abusers to grow stronger and wounds to deepen. The chosen one's spirit was not made to carry hidden burdens or suffer in quiet desperation. God declares that speaking out, setting boundaries, and removing toxic influences are acts of holy courage, not weakness. The cycle of silent endurance must be shattered so the spirit can heal and rise. The divine voice assures the chosen one that breaking silence will bring liberation and renewed strength. It is a sacred rebellion against the forces of darkness that seek to keep the chosen one shackled. The act of speaking truth and taking action honors God and honors the sacred mission entrusted to the chosen. God commands now refuse to carry pain in silence. Claim the voice, reclaim the power, break free from the trap that would hold you captive. The chosen one's destiny depends on this courageous choice to no longer endure in silence. Love is the greatest force created by God, but when twisted into a weapon, it becomes a tool of control and destruction. The chosen one is called to rise, to discern and to accept only that which reflects divine love, pure, liberating and rooted in truth destruction. The chosen one is fiercely warned to guard their heart against any form of love that demands the sacrifice of self-worth, freedom, or peace. Such love is not divine, it is a counterfeit crafted by forces that oppose God's plan and designed to imprison the spirit. The heart is sacred ground, a temple for God's presence, and it must be protected with unwavering vigilance. The divine command is clear. Recognize when love's true intention is hidden beneath layers of manipulation, possessiveness, or conditional acceptance. The chosen one is not called to endure love that wounds or confines, but to stand boldly and defend the sanctity of the heart. God's voice cries out with urgency, "Guard your heart with every ounce of strength, for it is the wellspring of your divine mission." Do not allow false love to erode the foundation of your purpose or tarnish the purity of your spirit. True love uplifts, frees, and empowers. Anything less is an enemy in disguise. The chosen one is empowered to say no, to walk away, and to demand love that honors the sacred. A heart once guarded and healed becomes a source of unstoppable power, fueling the journey toward divine fulfillment. God declares to the chosen one the profound strength found in the simple word, no. When spoken without guilt or fear, this word becomes a sacred shield, guarding the spirit from harm, manipulation, and false obligation. The chosen one is commanded to embrace this powerfully, knowing that every no spoken in faith is a step closer to freedom and divine alignment. Guilt and fear are enemies of this power, lies planted by the adversary to silence the chosen and maintain control. The divine voice instructs that saying no is not a rejection of others, but a holy act of self-preservation and obedience to God's higher will. The chosen one must release all feelings of unworthiness tied to boundary setting and embrace no as a declaration of worth and divine purpose. Each no spoken without hesitation fortifies the spirit, carving out sacred space for growth, healing, and deeper connection to God. God commands the chosen one to practice this boldly and consistently, refusing to allow toxic influences to dictate the terms of their life or mission. The power of no is transformative. It breaks chains, ends cycles of abuse, and opens doors to new blessings. The chosen one's breakthrough depends on this sacred refusal to tolerate anything less than God's. Best God reveals to the chosen one that boundaries are not walls, but spiritual armor, essential protection for a heart on a divine mission. These boundaries define sacred space where the spirit can thrive, free from manipulation, disrespect, and harm. The chosen one is commanded to build and maintain these defenses with unwavering resolve. Boundaries guard the chosen one's peace, clarity, and strength, preventing the intrusion of toxic energy and false demands. Without them, the spirit is vulnerable to attack, and the mission is at risk of being derailed. God commands the chosen one to see boundaries as acts of devotion. Bold, holy lines drawn to protect what is divine within serve the mission. It is the gift of sacred stewardship, guarding the temple of the soul. This armor does not isolate, it empowers. It clarifies relationships and shields the chosen one from becoming a battleground for others' control or cruelty. The divine voice urges that boundaries be communicated clearly and upheld firmly, for they are the foundation upon which divine purpose stands. The chosen one must honor these boundaries as an expression of love for both self and God. In doing so, they claim the protection necessary to walk boldly and unhindered toward destiny. God instructs the chosen one to discern carefully when honesty is being wielded as a tool of cruelty rather than a gift of truth. True honesty builds up and heals, but when cloaked in contempt, mockery, or bitterness, it becomes a weapon that wounds deeply. The chosen one must refuse to accept cruelty disguised as honesty, recognizing it as a direct attack on their spirit. The divine command is to listen to the heart's response. If words bring confusion, pain, or shame instead of clarity and encouragement, they are not from God. The chosen one must understand that cruelty often masquerades as brutal honesty to avoid accountability and hide malicious intent. God calls for the immediate rejection of this false honesty. This discernment is a sacred shield that allows the chosen one to preserve spiritual health and clarity. The voice of God commands, push back gently but firmly. Refuse to be diminished or manipulated by words meant to harm under the pretense of truth. The chosen one is empowered to demand honesty wrapped in love and integrity, rejecting cruelty as unholy and destructive. God commands the chosen one to rise above the voices of mockers who seek to silence and belittle the divine mission. Mockery is a tactic of fear, meant to shake confidence and plant seeds of doubt. The chosen one is urged to reclaim their voice and confidence, knowing that these attacks reveal the enemy's fear of their divine power. The divine voice assures the chosen one, your voice is given by God, a voice of authority, wisdom, and purpose. To remain silent or retreat is to surrender sacred ground God intends for you to claim boldly. God commands an active reclaiming of voice, speaking truth, asserting boundaries, and standing firm in identity. Confidence is the armor that deflects mockery. The chosen one is instructed to meditate on their divine nature and mission daily, allowing this awareness to build an unshakable foundation. This confidence silences mockers not by retaliation, but by shining with undeniable light. The chosen one must remember that mockery is powerless against a spirit anchored in God's truth. Reclaim the voice, let confidence roar, for it is the sound of destiny unfolding. God reveals the gift of spiritual wisdom as the chosen one's most effective defense against negativity and energy drainers. This wisdom discerns the intentions behind words and actions, allowing the chosen one to deflect what does not align with divine purpose and protect the sanctity of the mission, serve the mission. It becomes a divine shield that preserves vitality and clarity. The chosen one is commanded to seek and trust this wisdom continually. It does not operate through human understanding alone, but through divine insight, revealing what must be accepted, ignored, or blocked. This discernment protects the spirit from entanglement in destructive patterns and emotional exhaustion. God commands the chosen one to use spiritual wisdom to maintain peace amid chaos, to walk away from drama, and to refuse engagement with those who sap strength under the guise of closeness or concern. This wisdom is a wellspring of strength and sanctity. In practicing divine discernment, the chosen one sustains energy for the mission and ensures their spirit remains vibrant, focused, and aligned with God's purposes. God unveils the presence of anti-God forces, active, covert agents of resistance, seeking to block the chosen one's rise to divine destiny. These forces work through fear, manipulation, false counsel, and spiritual oppression. The chosen one is forewarned and commanded to recognize these tactics clearly and resist with unwavering faith. These adversaries seek to confuse, intimidate, and discourage, constructing illusions of impossible barriers. But these illusions are powerless against the authority of God's chosen. The divine command is to stand firm, knowing that victory has already been secured through divine authority and anointing. The chosen one is reminded. Resistance requires spiritual vigilance, consistent prayer, and the active use of divine power to dismantle every stronghold. The enemy's plans are temporary. The chosen one's rise is inevitable. God commands the chosen one to walk boldly armed with faith and divine strength, fully aware of the opposition but unshaken in purpose. The chosen one is unstoppable, ordained to break every chain and fulfill their heavenly mission. God also commands the chosen one to understand that loyalty, when it becomes a chain to toxic relationships and destructive patterns, must be released without hesitation. Loyalty is sacred when it honors growth, respect, and divine purpose, but when it binds the spirit to betrayal, manipulation, and pain, it becomes a prison. The chosen one is urged to recognize that true loyalty begins with honoring God's will and protecting the spirit above all else. Holding on to toxic loyalty is a form of self-betrayal, a silent agreement to endure harm in the name of commitment. This is not holy, this is not righteous. It is bondage disguised as faithfulness. God calls the chosen one to sever all ties that drain, devalue, or derail their divine calling. Freedom, not attachment, is the path of obedience. The chosen one must rise and walk unbound, loyal first, and always to the divine voice within.